Today is Donald Trump's last full day in office. And it is a matter of objective fact, not criticism, to note that Donald Trump leaves in more disgrace than most modern presidents, dogged by more convictions of top advisors in his first term than any president, rejected in real time by Americans who now, having seen it all, overwhelmingly disapprove of him. You can see the disapproval surging to the worst of his tenure. He's also shunned by business and tech leaders who spent years making excuses for him, and facing his second Senate trial, with far more on the line this time as Republicans openly mull using it to potentially bar him from public office forever. To paraphrase the rapper 21 Savage, Donald Trump has some problems here. How many lawyers you got? A lot. How many problems you got? A lot. How many people doubted you? A lot. Left you out to rot? A lot. Now, as Trump faces this late and rotting backlash, many are asking what took it so long for so many powerful people to just finally confront what he really clearly stands for and fought for and said he stood for the whole time. Would these companies like Twitter be enforcing their rules so vigorously if Donald Trump had just won re-election? As one writer who warned about Trump from the very beginning puts it, for 4 years, as Trump has brought ever more havoc and hatred to this country, many have wondered what it would take to dent his impunity. The answer appears to be committing sedition and losing power. That writer is the New York Times' Michelle Goldberg, and she joins us now. Michelle, your thoughts?
You know, I think that we've seen over the last 4 years just how power legitimizes people. You know, it's a small example, but one of the first signs that kind of the American establishment was going to adapt to the Trump administration. You know, the resistance aside, despite the fact that there was people who tried to, as we used to say at the beginning, avoid normalizing Trump. You'll remember at the very beginning of this administration, or a few months into it, the Harvard Institute of Politics made Corey Lewandowski and Sean Spicer into paid fellows, right? It was sort of an early sign that no matter how thuggish, no matter how kind of embarrassingly mendacious you behaved, there was going to be a place for you in the establishment as long as you had been adjacent to power. And it's really interesting that at the very end of this administration, the Harvard Institute of Politics has jettisoned Elise Stefanik from an advisory board, right? Because all of these institutions, it's one of many institutions that kind of accommodated itself to Trump. You know, there was always criticism. It's true that Melania never got a Vogue cover, which is a big sore spot. But as you see one after another institution rush to distance themselves, you can then, every one of these institutions that's distancing themselves now didn't do so over the last 4 years.
Yeah, it's very important. I hope you don't tire of me noting that you were right from the beginning. But this is a time where it is worth making sure we're listening to people who did correctly warn. And if others want to adjust and learn, great. We're in journalism. We're in the learning business. But who should we learn from? And the other piece that we're going to continue to stay on, you've also written about, relates to a special report we did, really doing an accounting of all this. Those who knew better because they publicly said so, at least on certain Trump failings, and then cynically doubled back. Take a look at just a piece of this accountability regarding Senator Cruz.
This man is a pathological liar.
I think he's a kook. I think he's crazy. I think he's unfit for office.
We should have basically kicked him out of the party.
I'm going to stand with President Trump.
I believe President Trump still has a path to victory.
The decent thing to do is let the president himself take the time he wants to absorb this. You have to allow that to happen.
President Trump is 100% within his rights.
Michelle?
Well, and you'll notice that Mitch McConnell today, after, you know, kind of winking and nodding at President Trump's delegitimization of this election over the last month, has now come out and said that actually all of this rhetoric about a stolen election, all these lies about a stolen election from Trump contributed to the violent attack on the Capitol. And in a way, I think impeachment is sort of can be seen as a gift to the Republican Party, because people like McConnell and some of these other leaders are being given a chance to, having for 4 years, ridden this Faustian bargain, that's a mixed metaphor, but, worked this Faustian bargain for all it was worth, right? Gotten all the judges, gotten all this sort of maximalist ideological conservative figures and all throughout the bureaucracy, having gotten everything they can out of Trump, are now being given the opportunity to purge the party of him, to, kind of whitewash their own complicity.
Yep.
And not all of them see it that way. But I think that, for McConnell, it's a really good bargain.
Right. You're hitting on something that is so tricky right now. You also raised the rhetorical question of, if you're trying to hide your own support for white supremacy, is that even a whitewash, or is there some other term? I'm not sure. I'm just trying to keep up with your rhetoric. But with regard to the actual point you just raised, if Mitch McConnell's that cynical about it, in a way, he may ultimately think he gets a political benefit out of shutting that door if he can find the votes, convict Trump, bar him from office. It might make his life easier dealing with intramural Republican debates, and yet, what is the ethical question about what's best there, Michelle?
Well, look, the ethical question is obviously that Donald Trump has committed high crimes and misdemeanors and should be impeached. He should have been impeached a year ago, and it's hard to even fathom the amount of human suffering that we could have avoided in this country had the Senate taken the steps to remove him a year ago.
Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.